once you get bitter, you're cold,
Yeah.
you're numb, you're harsh, you have no joy.
Hey, welcome to Ascend the Hill with Jeremy Austill. I'm Jonathan. This is Pastor Jeremy. How's it going?
It's going really well. Good week with the Encounter weekend coming up. Exciting times. I'm doing well.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great week. And if you're listening to this and you haven't yet signed up for Encounter weekend, and it's not past Encounter weekend, you need to sign up. So you can sign up. I'll put a link in. So I'll put a link in the description. You can sign up, and we hope to see you there because it's going to be amazing. 2 weekends, this weekend for men from the 19th to the 21st of September, and then next weekend, the 26th to the 28th for women. But regardless, we had a great past weekend.
Yes.
We have some good upcoming weekends, but this past weekend was a good weekend, talking about forgiveness. But before we get to that, we're going to talk a little bit of fall because it is slowly teetering towards the weather being fall. And we're not, and I know we always talk about the weather, but I'm just referencing it for this game that we're about to play.
Well, the trees at my house, the leaves are starting to subtly change. Some are falling off, and I'm not 100% sure if that's because it's fall or if because it's been so little rain, that they're wilting. I don't know, but whatever the case, you can feel every once in a while, especially in the mornings, like we're getting close.
We're closer and closer, and I'm here for it. And so we're gonna play a little Would You Rather.
Okay.
Some of these are a little different, but I think it'll be fun to talk about because some of these are food, some of these are not food. So here we go. Just different activities that in fall. So would you rather have a turkey leg or candy corn?
I mean, how is that even a question? Candy corn is trash.
Okay, so you're not a candy corn person.
No, listen, and I'm sure somebody that's listening was offended by that statement.
Good thing we're talking about forgiveness today.
Yes, but it's like this little dense, like wad of sugar that's weird textured. Turkey leg all day. But I will go ahead and say that turkey legs, especially at like a fair, Disney World, super overrated.
Really? Okay.
Yes, like way overrated. Most of the time, they're not especially flavorful. They are a lot of meat. You just keep like going and going. It's like, am I ever going to get to the end of this? Turkey legs. I don't know. I guess my experience with turkey legs at this point in life is predominantly wild turkey legs, not so much domestic. But I'm thinking like the big turkey leg like you get at the fair. That's what you're talking about. So a wild turkey leg, it has so many, like I'd call them spindles of cartilage that you got to kind of fight all of that. I don't love a turkey leg, but I hate a candy corn. So turkey leg is the pick.
And those legs are massive at the fair. I'm like,
yes.
Where'd you get this turkey from?
And it feels like after the first layer of biting, there's no flavor after that. Like you're down into like, the opposite of Flavor Town at that point.
All right, here's another one. Make friends with a raccoon or possum? Would you rather, if you could?
A raccoon. I don't even know what this has to do with the fall, but a raccoon. Possums are just gross.
I don't know, country fall. I don't know.
Yeah, possums are gross to me. Disgusting animals.
Yep.
Yeah, they just feel. I'm sure somebody out there loves the marsupial that is a possum. Aren't they a marsupial?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have a pouch.
Yeah, yeah. So possums are gross to me. Raccoons, I know that, that's a thing. Hunting raccoons is a thing. Eating raccoon. I mean, I've ate raccoon before.
Is it good?
Yeah, I mean, you cook it like barbecue. You cook it like a roast. It's one of those like low and slow deals. It's hard to think of a raccoon in our domesticated context because we call them trash pandas. Both animals are just eating whatever refuse they can find. But out in the wild, they're eating more natural stuff, and they just feel way less gross to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. 2 more.
I mean, notice though, my whole point was I don't want to be a friend with either of them, but like I'm thinking about which is more gross.
I don't want to be a friend, but I'll eat you.
Yeah, and I'm not eating a possum.
Yeah.
My papa, he used to always like tell stories about eating possum I mean, he would talk about like
Really?
we're gonna eat possum. We're gonna go out behind the house, and we're gonna go possum hunting with our dog Lady. He had a dog named Lady, and we're gonna go possum hunting, and we're gonna eat a possum. We talked about that all the time. We never did, thank the Lord.
That's oh my
So,
gosh. All right. Two more real quick. Watch a movie or watch football.
oh, watch football.
Yep.
Man, I mean, this is like low hanging fruit.
Okay.
I do enjoy
I
them.
thought it was gonna be a little bit more intense. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do enjoy a movie on occasion. I don't know. That's a good question because at this point in life, if you'd have asked 30-year-old Jeremy this, I mean, it doesn't matter what football game is on, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
care nothing about the teams. I mean, it could be 2 Division 3 teams. I'm watching it. As I've gotten older, you have kids, you have more responsibilities in life. At this point, I don't watch a ton of football that isn't my teams.
Yeah.
So on Saturday, I'm watching Tennessee, and if there's another big game on or we're just chilling, I'll watch it. But I'm not like, I got to go watch this game unless it's Tennessee. On Sundays, I watch the Titans, and I don't really watch any more NFL football. I mean, it might be on in the background, but I'll still say just because if it's a big game or if it's Tennessee, I'm going to watch football.
Yeah.
I'm at this point not a huge movie watcher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't watch many movies. They don't make as many movies, it doesn't seem like. I mean, I feel like they used to make more movies.
At least not ones I want to watch.
Now
Yeah.
I watch a series. Like I'll watch a series. I'd rather watch a series that has 15 episodes than a movie. I enjoy the development of a series. I don't know. I kind of
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And the potential to be with characters multiple seasons.
Mhm.
I like that as opposed to here's a movie, you've watched 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, and you're done.
Yeah.
Like I like the concept of being able to progress with a character, but I'll pick football.
Yeah. Okay, last one. Eat a caramel apple or apple pie?
I'm not a big fan of either.
Yeah.
I'll go apple pie.
Okay.
Can I have ice cream?
Sure.
And then I'm having ice
A la
cream.
mode, is that what it's called?
Yes, a la mode. Sounds like commode.
Yeah.
But I've never really loved saying a la mode.
Oh my
'cause,
gosh.
I mean, we said commode growing up. Somebody's laughing right now listening because
Yeah.
the word commode is hilarious.
Yep. Yes.
Not toilet.
Commode.
The commode. So anyway, so a la mode. Caramel apples. I'm not like a huge apple lover.
Mhm.
I'll eat an apple, but then once you put the caramel on it, it's sticky.
Yeah.
And you go to Gatlinburg and they've got these apples that got all sorts of stuff on it. And I've, eaten those a time or two. They're okay. But an apple pie that's warm
Mhm.
because it's got the crust and it's got all of that to it with some ice cream, that'd be my pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you were offended by any of this, we seek your forgiveness,
Yes.
and it very on point because we also talked about forgiveness on Sunday.
I will
so if
just
you
say,
need help,
I'll just say, if you're offended over possums or caramel corn, you are what they call petty.
yeah. Oh man. Well, on Sunday, and technically on Sunday, it was about forgiveness, but it was rather about the things that block you in life and the
Yes.
path to releasing yourself from those things that block you is through forgiveness, because a lot of it comes
Yes.
from not letting go of hurt.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to that, it's like we're in a series, Citizens, about being citizens of heaven and our society. And so one of those weekends, you decided to talk about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And so why do you think, especially today's culture, why was that so important to touch on that subject?
Well, because I think because of the swirl of society, if you're not careful, you'll give yourself a license for being angry, a license to hold grudges, a license to make enemies. It's one thing for someone to be an enemy of you, like they're an antagonist in your life. Like
Mhm.
it's another thing for you to make someone an enemy.
Yeah.
That's never the way it went. Like when David is talking about his enemies, it's not people that he's, like he's starting stuff with or he's
Mhm.
holding grudges. It's people that are literally coming at him in his life. And so we live in a day where we just are quick to write people off. We live in a day that talks a lot about um, toxicity, toxic relationships, all of that. And so, um, when you are in a society that feels like it's growing increasingly mean spirited
Yeah.
and justified in it, um, then as a believer, you have to be careful to not find yourself, as I said at one point, so baptized in that way that you now are beginning to practice the same stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and I think one of the things that makes us as believers very different in the earth, and one of the ways we bring God's kingdom into the earth, is doing the very thing that Jesus did for us, which is in some cases the most difficult thing to do, and it is to forgive. It is um, to not seek revenge. You
Mhm.
know, we live in a society that's very retaliatory. I mean, in our interactions, like I'm going to retaliate, I'm going to confront, I'm going to contend. I'm going to say something. And so when you're in a culture that's very retaliatory, where we have to hear Jesus say, no, we pray for those who persecute us.
Mhm.
We love our enemies. We turn the other cheek. You know, if someone's trying to take from us, we give the other coat because we know the Lord's going to take care of us and give us another coat.
Yeah.
Um, it is a sign and a wonder in a hostile world to not be a person of hostility, to not hold grudges, to not harbor offenses. Like, it's glorious as a citizen of God's kingdom to know that the Spirit of the Lord is working in you in such a way that I can be free of offense. I can be free. Not that I've never been offended, but you know, not that an offense hasn't happened to me, but I will not live from a posture of offended. It's
Yeah.
just, to me, it is the exact opposite of what we see going on around us right now,
Yeah.
which is like everybody's offended about everything.
Mhm.
Everybody's holding grudges. Everybody is not, and I'm when I say everybody, big, gigantic, broad brush. I'm being hyperbolic here. I'm being
Yeah.
exaggerative, but you get what I'm saying.
Mhm. And you know, when we hear messages like that and we're applying it to our own life, there are people who are like, I'm following the Lord, and I feel like things have happened that were unfair. How do I? But when there's a sense of unfairness,
Hmm.
there's a sense of wanting justice with that, and
Yes.
so it's like, how do I? If I know I need to forgive, but there's still this little thing that's like ticking at the back of my head of like, but it was not right.
Yeah.
How do we learn to let go of those things? Because sometimes it can be a big weight that grows and grows if we don't learn to deal with it.
Well, we have to trust the word and we have to trust the Lord.
Hmm.
And to me, really, when it comes to matters of fairness and justice, it's really a matter of trust. As in, um, do I trust the Lord is for me,
Hmm.
and that He's going to take care of that? And do I trust His bigger plan of what He wants to do in my life, what He wants to do with that person's life? What does He want to do through this situation? Like, do I trust Him in that regard? Do I trust Him to take care of me, even if the situation wasn't fair, even if like I something was taken that I have less because of that? Do I trust the Lord to replenish, to take care of me? And I think when you ask the question, I mean, the tension point for a believer is, to what degree am I allowed to stand up for myself,
Mm.
right? And that's a hard question to answer. And I've counseled people, and I've really almost case by case had to offer what I felt was wisdom in each situation of, hey, this is time for you to let this go. It's not going to go the way you want it to go, but for your own spiritual well-being, you need to let it be.
Mhm.
Versus, um, no, you need to see this through and carry out the whole process. But when it gets to the end, whatever the result, you've got to let it go.
Mhm.
You have to. And so, as the believer, I don't think you're a doormat. And I don't think turn the other cheek was the implicit idea was like you just let people walk all over you. I think the implicit idea was that we are not retaliatory, we're not vengeful.
Yeah.
We are, um, just this will be a little bit maybe even controversial, but as believers, we're not litigious.
Mm.
Like we're not litigious people. By that I mean, um, like I'm something happens and you're owed something. Okay, like let me do the things that I need to do, follow the process out legally, whatever, for what I'm owed. But litigious is like now I'm gonna cut into you.
Yeah.
That's to me. I think if you're not careful, you put your spirit in a susceptible place, and
Mm-hmm.
so whereas we're not just like, oh, you're a Christian, so you're supposed to just roll over and play dead on everything. Simultaneously, while you're not that, we trust the Lord with results and we follow things through, but we follow them through with a heart of trust
Mm.
that God is taking care of me. God's going to meet my needs. God is going to work this situation out one way or another, and I have to trust His big picture wisdom. And so it's not an easy line to walk. It's not an easy place to walk. But I think really when it comes to fairness and justice, what we're like, if we knew, I mean, and I guess that's kind of the rub. Like, if I knew at the end of this I was going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I trusted that I'm going to be okay, then that is going to inform my desire for justice and fairness because like I'm going to be okay. So so then the question is like, am I wanting revenge?
Mm.
Am
Yeah.
I wanting God to get them? And I know, man, there are passages where David's like, get them, right?
Yeah.
Passages where David's like, get them. And, but we had this talk when it came to human sexuality. Just because there were things that happen in the Bible, it doesn't mean that God put his stamp of approval. Like, for instance, the example of just because kings and people had multiple wives, that was a part of the story and God worked with the story of humanity, but like it doesn't mean that God approved,
Yeah.
right? Similarly, like David probably said some things that were, not congruent with the heart of God, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as a human, God is working in the human story. And so basically, like, I'm gonna listen to Jesus here and say, all right, I'm gonna pray for those who persecute me. I'm going to love my enemies, and I'm going to trust the Lord to handle it and handle those people and handle those situations and do what he sees fit.
Yeah. And when we're looking at even Jesus himself, like he leads by he led by example
Yes.
because he was treated the most unfairly,
Yes.
innocent. But then it's so wild when you read the story and the different accounts in the gospels, and like I don't think that like once you get deeper into your faith walk, you start having emotional responses to those because that situation where he's before Pilate, he's before the people, and it's like, well, Jesus, why didn't you didn't say anything?
Yeah.
All you said was not anything to help your case.
Right.
And it's like, why would you not say anything? But then you realize the weight of everything that he was doing. So it's like, it almost seems like Jesus leads by example in the sense of it may be a little different, the comparison, but he was willing to let go of getting what he could have had in the moment in
Yeah.
order for a better outcome.
Yeah. And ultimately, what you said in the beginning is the most important. Jesus led by example. Jesus forgave.
Mm.
Jesus literally was hit on the cheek. Jesus literally was treated with hostility, scorn, abuse, anger, rage, and he did not retaliate. And that is an example. Like, I want to be more and more like Christ, and I can what about? I mean, I've got scenarios in my mind where it's like turning the other cheek
Mm-hmm.
would be like would feel almost impossible for me.
Mm-hmm.
You when it comes to my kids, I mean,
Yeah.
there would be like there's certain areas still, and that's what we have to know about ourselves as humans. Like there's this prescribed Jesus way that we're on the way toward. And we're
Yeah.
not all the way there yet, but we should aspire to get there, right? We should aspire to get to that place of like unbelievable trust, just complete dependence on him.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I got a long way to go. We all got a long way to go,
Yeah.
you know.
And it reminds me of a parable too. I just thought about it. There's a parable about a man who had a lot of money
Hmm.
to that he owed. He goes before the person. He begs for mercy. He's granted mercy, but then he goes to the people that owe him money,
Yeah.
and he demands of them. And then that the person, I think it was a judge or someone, calls him back and said, "I gave you mercy, and you didn't reciprocate that, and so because of that, you're now punished."
Yeah.
And it's like a story that I wish I knew where it was at, but it like highlights what I think you mentioned in the sermon about forgiveness, and even if you don't forgive, like the pain of what happens if you don't allow forgiveness to live in your life,
Yes.
because it's like the Lord's pretty clear, like if you don't forgive, you're not forgiven.
Right.
And it's like that kind of like those that story and then that statement is kind of scary, you know.
Yeah. And I mean, you even in that parable that you're referencing, um, you see the hypocrisy of the focal point of the story, the person that begged for forgiveness and then went and was not forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, of course, that parable, it's just trying to tell a really clear point on forgiveness. But if you kind of put yourself in it, and as a pastor, I put myself in it trying to lead, and what I observe and see and just introspectively, I think it's really easy to have blind spots, in our own
Mm-hmm.
life, to where it's like, we want all this justice. We want to be treated well, but then is there an area of our life where we're not doing the same?
Yeah.
Where there's a degree of hypocrisy in us, where we're not being just, where
Yeah.
we're not handling somebody well. And that puts us in this great, cycle of humanity of like, I want to be treated really well. I mean, it's why we read the text, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. But like, it's like quaint children's church, but like when we all really closely examine our lives, there's probably a good bit of incongruence in how we handle people versus how we want to be handled. And so we have to come to it with a great humility. And I think that's ultimately the trait that Jesus is asking for, is a humility that forgiveness is kind of enveloped in, that like I'm an unbelievable recipient of grace. How could I be a holder of grudges? How could I be offended? How could I be unforgiving? How could I be these things when I've received so much?
Yeah. And when people are like, we had a great prayer time Sunday as well. And if people weren't here for Sunday, or if you were, like, you're in the prayer moment and you resolve things,
Mm-hmm.
but then inevitably the scenario replays in your head.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, how do we make sure we're continually working on this? Is it just a matter of literally when it happens doing something, or are there other steps that we can take to kind of help almost like train ourselves to be better at this concept of forgiveness,
Yeah. Um, I mean, I feel like this ends up being the answer most of the time for most questions that get asked, is you and we have to be diligent. We have to be intentional. We have to be consistent. We have to be focused on handling and processing those thoughts and feelings as they come. And being disciplined and mature, saying, this is what the word says. When I have this thought, this is what I feel, but I'm going to do what the word says. And so, yes, when the thoughts come, when the emotions dredge back up, um, the prescribed response is, even if you have to say it audibly, no, I have forgiven. I am in the process of forgiving. And Lord, I give this to you. Like
Mhm.
there's something powerful in when something comes your way, consciously, mentally, verbally saying, Lord, I give that to you. Like
Mhm.
I need you to help me with that. When you say I give it to you, you're saying a plethora of things. I need
Yeah.
you to help me with that. I'm having a hard time with that. I need the work of your spirit to deal with this. But just, it's just this it's highly effective to anytime stuff like that comes to go to the Lord, to
Mhm.
bring it to the Lord, to just stay in the face of the Lord instead of what we a lot of times do is we go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
We go down the rabbit hole and we start thinking on it, meditating on it. We start replaying the conversations or the situation. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I found myself riding down the road having a fake conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just owning it. Like as a pastor, like I'm having fake conversations. I'm like, what am I doing? What is the point? What is the point of this? Uh, and again, that comes to maturity, discipline. Like, what am I going to do with this? Like, and I love that Jesus told Peter, "You forgive 7 times 70." And I've seen a couple of teachings on it, but I can't remember them well enough to really dive into it right now. But I think the general idea of 7 times 70 is basically you forgive every time it comes up.
Yeah.
Every time it comes up in you, every time it comes up in conversation, every time you see the person, every time you have to uh, drop the kids off in the Kroger parking lot for custody weekend exchanges,
Mm.
right? Every time you have to go to Thanksgiving dinner, I get you every time they text, like you have to. Every time you see them post something on Facebook,
Mm.
like you have to do the thing
Yeah.
of forgiving 70 times 7. And um, I don't think there is a I don't think there is a set timeline on how long it takes you to get to the point where you don't have to do that.
Mhm.
I,
Yeah.
I I don't, and I think that's kind of what Jesus was saying too. It's um, like there's not a prescribed number of times, and then finally you're done feeling that,
Yeah.
right? And we all know you could like not feel something for 5 years, and then something happened, and it's like, oh, there it is, and I've got to go back and forgive again because we've talked on Wednesday nights about how the enemy works. The enemy
Mhm.
is really persistent. Like the enemy doesn't quit, right? The enemy
Yeah.
will keep poking and picking. If there was something in your life that caused pain, difficulty, and it affected your emotions and it was blocking the fruit of the spirit, well, the enemy knows like, okay, I got that.
Yeah.
I've talked about it. I've talked about it before. The app. There's a hunting app. I'm totally blanking on it now. Anyway, I'm blanking on it. But
Yeah.
anyway, in the hunting app, you can drop a pin. Like let's say you're out in the woods and you see a deer, and I can drop a pin on that precise location,
Yeah.
right? Well, the enemy, it's almost like he drops a pin in certain places, so he's going to keep revisiting that.
Mhm.
So I might have to forgive again and again and again, and let go of the grudge again and again and again. But I do believe there is a place of healing and wholeness, and when you'll cross over into it to where it's like this thing is not like it might keep coming up, but it's not blocking the flow of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And that there's a difference. There's a difference between it just coming up
Mhm.
versus like this thing has has affected my joy, it's affected my peace, it's affected my ability to trust people, it's affected my sense of God's presence. Like that's a different deal.
Mm.
And unfortunately, what happens to a lot of people is because of these relational challenges, difficulties, hurts, angers, frustrations. Like you just go on this slow journey of bitterness,
Yeah.
And bitterness is, to me, is kind of like you don't just start bitter. You know, it's interesting. The passage in Hebrew says a root of bitterness. Well, we all understand that a root is kind of the beginning of a thing, and
Yeah.
it has the capacity to grow and spread. It's why I use kudzu as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And what you don't want to get to is bitterness,
Yeah.
but bitterness is in game, you know, for the enemy. Like, he's trying to get you to bitterness. He's trying to get you to walk yourself all the way to it. And once you get bitter, you're cold,
Yeah.
you're numb, you're harsh, you have no joy, like you have no passion in life. You literally, like, well, literally is probably not the right word, because I don't know that it's literal. You don't DNA change, but you become a different person.
Yeah.
And we've all met those, and maybe a good percentage of us listening have had a season where it was like, I'm bitter and I don't like who I am right now.
Yeah. And so, as we wrap up, we're not, we have the encounter weekends coming up.
Yeah.
And so those are great moments to, if you have the moment, if you have the chance, and you're listening to this before, then come. You need to come to any part of them, because especially if you're dealing with this, which I'm sure we all at some point deal with this on the weekly.
Oh, I mean, man, and I don't remember if I articulated it. I think I did at the end of both services. Just like, nobody is immune to this. It's just that, you have processed what happened to you or the difficulty of the situation. Like, all of us deal with conflict. All of us deal with hurts and disappointments and relational tensions and having an offense come our way. None of us are immune from that. Like, that's all coming. That's going to happen. And probably every one of us have at some point or another had something we've really had to battle through to find forgiveness.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to stand in the platform as somebody and I know that in my future it's coming again.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to have to deal with it again. It's about being aware of the consequence of, if I just let this go in my life, if I don't attack it spiritually, if I don't deal with it, if I don't fight to forgive, like, where this ends up is me being a shell of who God made me to be.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievably important. And it makes me deficient in the abundant life that Jesus won for me. So,
yeah. And if you're needing help, if you're struggling with this and you just need someone to come alongside you and help you get out of whatever mess you're in internally, we're here for you. So reach out to us at cornerstonenashville.org, or call the church at 615-865-6655, or be it Encounter Weekends. The link is in the description. Regardless, we're here for you. And as we continue this series, Citizens, we're in this together as the body of Christ. So let's make sure that we're communicating with each other and praying for each other and helping each other in this walk. And so we look forward to seeing you Sunday. Look forward to seeing you at Encounter Weekends. Regardless, we hope to catch you next time on Ascend the Hill.